Good morning. You are listening to Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski, WAAT 750 AM on your radio dial. We're here every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. and talking about issues relating to children, families, education, preventative health. And this morning we have a very unique twist on working with children and children's issues. And that is, we have Thomas Benjamin, PhD, who is the president of the Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. And yourself?
I'm great. I want to go through the litany of some of the most extraordinary things you've done. You're president of Fund Consultants. You're working with the National Senior Environmental Corps. You're with the Solar Energy Fund, the Pennsylvania Senior Environment Corps. You've won awards, the National Award for Sustainability and Community from Renew America and the President's Council on Sustainability. You were named the United Nations Environmental Program Global 500 Laureate, and written many. You're a publisher of the Easy Does It and Sustainable Communities Review Journal. You've written A Good Home is a Healthy Home, Global Climate Change, Protecting Your Health, Creating a Senior Environmental Corps. My goodness, you are a busy man.
Try to keep active once in a while.
Now, you're going to Ireland for an award. Will you tell us a little bit about that award?
Well, it's not really an award.
Oh.
What it is the President of Ireland was so overwhelmed by the work that we're doing in Pennsylvania with the Pennsylvania Senior Environment Corps that there will be a signing ceremony at Dublin Castle on June 29th to announce the establishment of a national retired senior volunteer program in Ireland with a major emphasis on the environment and environmental projects in Ireland.
Now, you just got back from Japan. What was happening in Japan?
We were fortunate enough, the Pennsylvania Senior Environment Corps again got the position of a Global 500 laureate from the United Nations Environmental Program. And for those that are probably not aware of it, it's comparable to a Nobel Prize in the environment. And we were the only program out of the United States this year chosen for that honor.
Well, congratulations from us here at the station.
Thank you.
Now, the reason we have you on is because we want to talk about Pennsylvania is the second oldest state in the United States, and by that I mean we have so many senior citizens here in the state of Pennsylvania. And one of the critical our times coming up is that we are going to double the amount of senior citizens in the United States by the baby boomers retiring very shortly within the next 5 years and so. I wanted to look at that aspect because I believe personally that our senior citizens are perhaps the answer to our problems with children today in this country. We don't have a bridge between our youth and our senior citizens because of our mobile society and many other reasons. Let's talk about senior citizens and our perceptions of what they can do. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I think that one of the things that we have to appreciate, as you say, is that we are an aging population, and a larger group or larger percentage of us are living longer, healthier, and more active lives. And one of the things that we have not successfully done in the past is really use that resource of the older person. Interesting through history, in the time of history, at one time the older individual of the tribe or the community was considered the elder and also the keeper of most of the stories and the history of the community. And today we've gotten away from looking at our older individuals as a resource, and some of us are even looking at them as a burden.
Now, how are they equipped to, in your perception, what kinds of things can senior citizens do in their older lives?
Seniors can be extremely active and are. About 85% of those over 65 are healthy and active. We do have, unfortunately, about 15% that are fragile and need special attention and special care. But we have seniors that are helping other seniors, providing Meals on Wheels, providing home visits to seniors that are at home. Going from there to working with students in the schools. A very successful program, America Reads, goes on throughout the country, and many seniors are involved in America Reads programs. In the Pennsylvania Senior Environment Corps, seniors go out to schools throughout the city, throughout Pennsylvania, and actually act as mentors and provide environmental education activities to schools throughout the throughout the Commonwealth.
Now, how is environmental education? How do you correlate that bridge between seniors and environmental education? What kind of projects do you do?
Well, the seniors are involved in Pennsylvania. The first project they got involved in was a wellhead protection program. This was to help safeguard the drinking water, specifically in the Allentown area, for future generations and current generations, working with the community, identifying potential pollution sources, and helping the community to build a project that would help prevent pollution getting into the drinking water. A big part of that program has been to reach out to the schools and into the community with environmental education and a groundwater model that they use to educate people about contamination or potential contamination of groundwater.
So the seniors were used in the schools as teachers? Virtually.
They were basically coming in as itinerant teachers.
Mm-hmm.
These are individuals in some cases that have had 30, 40, 50 years of work experience. And we have everything from environmental engineers to retired doctors and lawyers, retired teachers, retired housewives, individuals that have lifelong experiences that really need to be shared with the youth, to give role models to our youth and to show them the different opportunities that exist for them.
Now, I have a few objections to the way we have been dealing with environmental issues in our schools. Basically, we treat it as a subject, something that is separate from everyday life, and my personal philosophy is that the environment is a lifestyle and not just a course we learn in school. What kinds of things are you doing to enable students through the seniors be able to collaborate and form lifestyle changes rather than just learning something in a classroom?
Well, I think one of the major important roles of environmental education is that it is integrated into all subject areas, but it gives real life experiences to students. In other words, a group of students can identify a vacant lot next to a school, which was done in the Allentown area. And to help with seniors, they got involved with the court system to provide opportunities for delinquent youth to work in basically they took responsibility for an organic garden for the community. And together with the seniors and the students, and also students, younger adults out of the home for delinquent adults, young adults, they worked together to build and to develop an organic garden that became not only a working garden that produced vegetables, but also a community education program on how to live and work with organic foods.
Now, let's take let's look at some things here. We're talking about lifestyle changes. How can we help children through the use of the seniors? I was thinking about your elder program that you were talking about, and the Native Americans really valued their elders. We seem to have lost the ability to value one of our greatest natural resources next to our children is our elder population. Have you ever studied Native American traditions and how they treated their elders and how we can facilitate that in American society today?
Yes, I have. Actually, part of my heritage is Native American, and one of the things that I learned very early on was the amount of real life education that happened at the knee of the elders. We were told and taught how to use various plants, how to literally survive off the land. And that was really the job of the elders, basically teaching us through story and through tradition. And that's been lost. Even on a lot of the reservations today, there's not as much communication between the elders and the youth on the reservation as there needs to be to learn some of those basic skills.
Do you believe that if we somehow bring the elder population, and I like that better than calling them senior citizens, it sounds so much more respectful. If we bring the elder population back to the classrooms in order to be able to bridge the gap between our seniors, do you feel that perhaps our respect for seniors and their tremendous volume of resources can be recaptured by our children?
I think it's natural. Just watch any child with a grandparent or an older adult. There's a bond that almost happens automatically. Young children, individuals are looking for someone that they can relate to, that they can look up to, and also someone that can impart to them the knowledge of history. And what better person to talk to about the last 50, 75 years, or even longer in some cases, because they relate stories about talking to their grandparents. I remember an incredible story. I was up in Warren, Pennsylvania, talking to a volunteer, and he was relating to me a story about when he was a caddy for Babe Ruth. Now, for a few of us that like baseball, what an incredible opportunity to talk to somebody that actually knew Babe Ruth and was a caddy for him, on a local golf course up in Warren, Pennsylvania.
That's an awesome experience.
It is, and you run into those experiences over and over again throughout the world.
Well, I had one personal one myself. We were sitting around the table. I'm only a second generation American, and my grandmother was coming over to the United States. We were sitting at dinner one day. She was 79 years old, and we were talking, my brothers and I were arguing about the time when the Atlantic was crossed by Lindbergh. And we were discussing it and arguing, and my grandmother, who rarely got in those arguments, said, "I know exactly what day it was and what time." And we all turned and looked at her and said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "Well, when I was coming over here from Italy on the boat, he was flying so low that he just missed our boat. And we had to steer, and I saw him go. It was cloudy apparently and foggy, and apparently the boat had to shift in order for them to miss him, and she saw him fly right by." It took her 79 years to give us that little piece of information, and I turned to her and said, "Now, why didn't you tell us that before?" And she said, "Because nobody ever asked."
Right.
And it was a rude awakening for me, even though we constantly have communication in our family with talking to our elders. there were questions that we didn't even think about asking, and here she was 79 years old, and we took to taping and retaping, and thank goodness we did, to keep that heritage alive. But how many times do families... I spoke with a man the other day whose grandchildren live in California. He's never even seen them.
Yep. Well, because of technology and because of the complicated lives that we've forged for ourselves, we don't have an opportunity to sit down and talk, sometimes even with our own parents, let alone grandparents. And it's a part of that history, part of that human culture that we're missing. I know I was just in Japan, and I was very privileged during our meeting to be able to talk to the Emperor and the Empress of Japan. And, this is the son of Hirohito. And it was just incredible. One is to have the opportunity to speak to them, and secondly, their interest once they found out about the Pennsylvania Senior Environment Corps, they were saying, this is what we need for our elders in Japan, because our families are starting to grow apart, and they're starting to miss all of this incredible heritage and education and history that our seniors can do. And our Japanese culture are now starting to look at our older Japanese members as being a burden to society instead of what they should be, is honored for what they have done.
You are listening to WAAT 750 AM on your radio dial. This is Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski. We're here every week, every Tuesday, and we're here today with Thomas Benjamin, Ph.D., who is president of the Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement. And we're talking about elders, senior citizens, and how we can incorporate them to bridge the gap between our children and the adult world. I remember, Tom, when I was growing up, I have both sides of my family European, and I remembered that, and also in the Japanese culture and many other cultures throughout Europe, the elders or the grandparents stayed home to raise the young children while the parents went out to work. And it's some bridge that we've missed somehow in our culture. We've encouraged our senior citizens to move to Florida and don't use that opportunity. What would you suggest some of the schools do I know it's very difficult for families who are scattered to the winds. How can schools begin to bridge that gap? What suggestions do you have?
I think one of the biggest things that we have that's in a positive way is that we have what we had mentioned earlier, the growing population of seniors. And when we talk with those seniors, they are looking to volunteer. It was just like the little story about your grandmother talking about Lindbergh. She summed it all up. We just have not asked the right question. And what schools need to do is start reaching out to those organizations that are the bridge between the senior population and potentially the schools. And what they need to do is start looking at what can we use this talented, educated group to do. And I'm not talking about, stuffing envelopes or being there for lunch duty, monitoring the lunchroom.
Which is generally what happens not just for the senior citizens, but for parents who want to come in. They are, raise money for the bake sale, or they, work in the office, and that's not what they want. It's human relationship.
Right, and what we need to do is to educate our schools on how best to use senior volunteers. And at the same time, we need to work with the retired senior volunteer projects across the country, the senior centers, the offices on aging, and the church groups that can all encourage seniors to get actively involved in their schools. not only in the schools, but also in the extracurricular activities after school. There's seniors that are helping students to learn about computers. There are students helping seniors to learn about using email so that they can talk to other people around the country and the world. So there's an incredible opportunity for both generations to learn from each other. And we need to form the bridges. We need to give the opportunities for these, the elders and our youngsters and other generations to get together, because the one thing that our elders have right now, which is more precious than almost anything else in this society, is time. And they are looking for creative, productive ways to use that time so that they can leave a better society and a legacy for the future. And all we need to do is ask them to get involved.
I concur tremendously. My mom was just died a few months ago, and my father they were married for 49 years, and my father is just beside himself with something to do. They would never been separated, and they were very active in the community, and so he just, if I find him painting one more thing around the house, I think I'm afraid one day I'm going to drive up and he's going to be on the roof trying to replace the roof. But he has so much time on his hands, and I tried to inform him that there are many opportunities for him to participate in the community. He had no idea that there were all these volunteer projects that he could do. And I think you're right. It's time we start educating people to helping bring out these senior citizens. Do you have across the state of Pennsylvania a phone number where we can reach you, where both the senior citizens can reach you as well as those that would like to tap into that reservoir of seniors?
Yes. Let me give you an 800 number that we can use. It is 888-423-7855. And that actually goes to our national headquarters in Virginia. And then what we can do is put them in contact with the different projects across the state of Pennsylvania or any place else in the country that they're interested in getting involved.
Again, Thomas Benjamin with the President's Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement. The phone number, if you'd like to contact him, is 1-888-423-7855. That's 888-423-7855. If you'd like to reach us here at any time and contact us with any information, you can call us at 570-639-2931 with Children Come First, 570-639-2931, or you can email us at prokids@rlc.net. That's prokids@rlc.net. Now, Tom, you talked about something that's really interesting, and that is an art form, actually, that we've lost in this country. And it sounds like Japan. I really valued the Japanese culture. My husband actually was born in Japan, and we studied the traditional Japanese culture, and the respect that the Japanese culture has had for their elders as natural resources. I was in awe. But they had you discussed two things. One is storytelling, and the other, and this is Native American cultures as well, and the other is through the storytelling, passing on tradition. How can we bring that back in America? What kinds of things can we do to bring that back in America?
I think that one is to bring seniors back into the schools, the elementary schools, and have them actually be part of the school program where they can actually share their own life experiences and talk about the history as they've seen it over the last 50, 75, or 100 years, and how they have seen what they learned from their grandparents. There's a rich history of stories, that have been passed down through families that can be shared. And this could be a very exciting part of what the schools can get involved in. Also, seniors can get involved. We have projects where the seniors are getting involved in the arts as well in the schools, working in drama, music, using the creative arts and skills that the seniors have, and working with the students to give them more experiences and a wider interpretation of some of the things they're doing. So there's definitely a way, I think, of utilizing the seniors, the elders in our communities, in the schools, and in various community activities that they can get involved with the students.
I personally work with educators across the state of Pennsylvania, and what I have recognized over and over again from preschool to 16 is that educators are not familiar, don't make informed choices because they have no idea what kinds of things are available not only in their own community but in the state as well. The resources that are here are just tremendous, and they have no idea that they don't have to be alone here in this work, that they can reach out to the community. There has been so much negativity in terms of the press that I think teachers are fearful of reaching out to the community. What would be a first step for families and or communities in terms of reaching out to the senior population in their community?
I think the first step is a simple one, and that's to take a look at what are the needs of that school and what are the needs of the youngsters that are attending that school. I think the one good example we have is the America Reads program, where it's been identified where reading is a very important skill. And to bring in seniors to get involved in doing reading programs. We have a program in Alexandria, Virginia, where they've incorporated environmental issues with a reading and learning program. And if the students progress and reach certain goals that they set with their mentor, with their senior volunteer, they then actually go out on a field trip to see what they've been reading about or learning about. For instance, they were talking about endangered species, and once they've learned about the species through a reading program, they actually went on a field trip to the National Zoo. And this was made possible because many of the students had a mentor. It was a one-on-one relationship. And the one thing we all know is that the old and tested and true method of apprenticeship works. And the reason why we don't do that in schools today is because of money. We don't have enough money to hire enough teachers so that classroom sizes are smaller and people get individual needs taken care of. But if we start looking at and using our senior volunteers, here's another resource that doesn't have to be trained. It may have to have a workshop or an introduction on how to work with the teachers and the students. But we have a resource here that we can bring in if the schools can identify the areas that they need the help in, and it's not busy work. This has to be real. It has to be something that a senior can feel proud of, saying, I did this, I was involved.
Well, we're going to be leaving for a break very shortly and to have some announcements. And what I'd like to say in this last 2 minutes is that you may reach us. We're speaking with Thomas Benjamin here, PhD, from the President's Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement. You may reach him at 888-423-7855. That's 888-423-7855. Or you may reach us here at Children Come First, with Dr. Daria Brzezinski at 570-639-2931. That's 570-639-2931, or email us at prokids@rlc.net. That's prokids@rlc.net. We're here every Tuesday with Children Come First, and we talk about issues regarding children, families, and today we're talking about senior citizens, one of our greatest resources, and how we can incorporate them and build the bridge between children and, again, our senior citizens, which we have not done for many years, and that we need to attempt to do. So please join us for our second half hour when we come back after we listen to several important messages with Children Come First and Thomas Benjamin, Ph.D. from the President's Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement.
Roger Lowry, who actually is one of our trainers for the state. We took him out to Littleton, Colorado, to the Hach Chemical Company, and he was trained by Hach chemists to do the water monitoring and become a trainer. We believe very strongly that we use seniors as our trainers in our outreach. Groups in Allentown, Pennsylvania have been going out and providing programs in the schools with a groundwater model that they use. Now the groups are getting involved also in household hazardous waste pickups. They're getting involved in a pollution prevention program on how to green physicians' offices so that they have less impact on the environment. They are getting involved in the Green Home program, where they start working with residents and showing them how they can change their buying habits or change some of their ways that they're using materials so that they have less impact on the environment. So there's all kinds of programs going on. The newest one is a program with acid mine drainage. And as you know, we have a long heritage and history of mining and a lot of abandoned mines now that are slowly being they're causing some problems with the water from the acid mine drainage. And we have volunteers actively working in the communities to try to solve some of those problems.
Well, it sounds to me like you have definitely tapped into a very unique set of individuals, these seniors that are working for you. You are using them as a tremendous resource in the community and of great, great value. I mean, here's an educator who's gone back to teach, literally as a volunteer. Can you say a little bit more about elders as resources rather than deficiencies, which is what most people see them as?
Well, I think that the biggest problem that we have in using our elders as a resource is the perception that as soon as you start talking seniors, everybody starts looking at Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid and says, you know, all of our money is going. I know I have a son that's 20 years old now, and, you know, as soon as he starts talking to me about the senior program, and he knows that I do it all the time, he says, well, I'm going to work all the time, Dad, and all my money is going for Social Security, and I'll never see it. You know, it's all those seniors taking on my money. And it's a perception that's there with a lot of people. And the reality is that seniors as a group give more back to the community than they actually take out. There isn't a nonprofit organization anywhere in Pennsylvania that you look at that does not have seniors actively involved in that organization. And I would ask any of you to take a look at our hospitals, the nonprofit hospitals, our colleges, our universities. Take a look at who are the members of the board of directors or the trustees. If you don't find a majority of seniors in those positions, I'd be very surprised. They are our leadership in our community. and they are a resource that gives back to the community many more times than what they take out.
Well, I was able, when I started my business, to tap into SCORE, which is the senior ladies and gentlemen who have been in business and are retired, and they come back to teach and work with people who are starting upstart businesses and or people who are in business and are having trouble, and they give advice and recommendations, and they're extraordinary. They're extraordinarily conservative in Virginia as well, but in any event, I listen to everything that they have to say regarding business, and they haven't steered me wrong yet. Now, you talked earlier about programs where seniors go into the classroom in schools, and I was thinking about something that most parents, most educators especially, and most people in the community talk about in respect to our youth, and that is the lack of respect that our youth has for adults. Do you see this as a means of helping reestablish a respect for adults and seniors? I personally am a little upset when I hear some of the children talk. I don't look like I'm about to become a senior citizen anytime too soon, but I've heard some of the teenagers talk about their lack of respect for seniors and the kinds of things they would do when they become adults and in an authority positions, and it upsets me. What kinds of things can we do to build that bridge and have our students be more respectful?
I think part of the problem that we have, and it's one it's very difficult to deal with, is that many of our younger people are growing up in households that basically have one parent. And a lot of times in those communities where that is a high percentage, they also don't have a lot of contact with other members of their own families. You don't see, again, what you were referring to earlier, where the grandparents kind of jump in and help raise the kids. That's becoming more and more of a phenomena in some communities where the parents have given up parenting and the grandparents step in. But in most cases, we're dealing in a situation where youngsters have not had a regular contact with older people. And if we could get senior volunteers more involved, it won't be with their own grandchildren, because unfortunately they're probably living in California or Virginia or, someplace not home. As in my case, my parents live in upstate New York and I'm in Virginia, so they haven't had a lot of contact. But they're able to volunteer and work in the local schools and become surrogate grandparents to youngsters and reintroduce that bond between the generations that is so sorely missing in a lot of our communications.
It also reiterates to me a comment you made earlier about senior citizens having pride in some of the in their work. And if we can get them into rather than menial tasks, which are fundraising for, bake sales or running off papers in the office, but interpersonal skills, not only I feel will they have pride in their work and what they are doing, but they will be teaching children meaningful interaction skills, which our children are lacking, communication skills, in which our children are lacking. And I really see this as a tremendous plus for both seniors and the children and our community at large.
It really is, and it's an opportunity. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people, and the perception is that, oh my, what are we going to do with all these older people? What's going to happen when 40 or 50% of the population are over 50 years old? how can we sustain ourselves? The workforce will be smaller. These people that are in retirement will be larger. They'll be using more of the money and like that. And in reality, we have an incredible resource that's looking for something to do. We just don't stop living the day we retire. That is an opportunity for changing how we deal with the future when we hit retirement. And you have 2 roads or 3 roads to go down. You can retire and become basically sedate and not do a lot and figure it's time to cash in your chips, which unfortunately happens to a lot of individuals. The statistics of individuals that retire and do not remain active have a much shorter lifespan than those that get active. The other opportunity is to really get active in the community and get involved and continue being a major force for positive change. And the third one is the ones that retire into these retirement communities and kind of build a wall around themselves and get away from everybody. These gated communities are coming more and more of a thing it's a trend. But we're finding when we talk to the people in those communities even, they're saying that they get bored after a while. They want to do something. And it's not just play golf or go fishing, even though at this time, that sounds real good to me.
And then when you have the opportunity to do it, it won't be as much fun. You're listening to Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski. We're here every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. on 750 on AM on your radio dial, WAAT. We're here today with Thomas Benjamin, President, who is on the President's Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement, and we are talking about integrating our elders, our senior citizens, back into the community, and especially working with our children and our grandchildren. Tom, you have a phone number, 888-423-7855, if you'd like to find out about senior volunteer programs. The number again is 888-423-7855. Tom, you were telling me you have a website and email address to give to our audience.
Yes, we do. We actually have a couple websites, but the one that would be the best to access for general information on EASY is it's just easi.org, easy.org. And if someone would like to email me for a message, they can send email messages to tom@easi.org.
Okay. And if you'd like, that's information on senior volunteer programs or how you can do something in the state of Pennsylvania for your particular community, whether you're a parent listening to us, a child, or a senior citizen. We like to see those bridges gapped because part of the philosophy of Earth Heart Foundation is integrating many different issues and possibilities. And what we're talking about here today is integrating many of the what we call problems in our culture today and in our society, which is complaints about lack of respect, lack of pride in our work, apprenticeship programs, which we keep funding more and more money into our youth and into our school programs when we have this huge population of senior citizens or elders that we can use for many of the programs that we'd like to incorporate with a little bit of training, not very much training for the most part. Those who volunteer are quite intelligent and most of whom have college educations, would like to participate in programs in your neighborhood or in your school. So please think about bringing those senior citizens back into the classroom and helping out with students one-on-one, reading, mathematics, create environmental projects, after-school programs, or any kinds of programs that are in need of extra hands from elementary through college, or I should say preschool, all the way through college level. Now, Tom, we want to get back to talking about some other issues regarding seniors, but I wanted to talk to you about your book, A Good Home is a Healthy Home. Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Well, what it is, it's actually a pamphlet on a good home being a healthy home, and it outlines a series of things that an individual can actually do in their own home to become more environmentally friendly. And some of the things are very simple. For instance, closing your drapes on a hot day if you're using air conditioning. On the other hand, on a winter day, opening the drapes on the south side so that you're heating your home. Taking care of using water. So, you know, the simple thing of not taking a 30-minute shower, or using water that maybe dishwater and like that actually can then be used to water plants afterwards. Some of the things are the recycling. Most of communities now in Pennsylvania have areas for recycling, so that you can take plastics or metals and paper for recycling. But the most important thing is to look at what you're doing in your own home. We complain about acid rain. I think that's something that we've heard a lot about over the years. And one of the contributors to acid rain is the amount of electricity that's generated. So if we reduce the amount of electricity that we use in our own homes, we actually have an impact on the acid rain. But even more importantly now, if you believe or don't believe, whichever the case be, with global climate change, we know that the amount of energy that we use individually has a direct impact on that. Simple things like keeping your car tuned and taking it in for, the normal repairs. All of these are things that are lifestyle changes, like you said in the beginning, that we're looking at. And sometimes they're not even really as much of a lifestyle change as they are just good common economic sense.
So then all of these things that I have listed here, global climate change, protecting your health, creating a senior environmental core, and introduction to fundraising, are all pamphlets for people that are available through EASY?
We have some of those available. They're not only pamphlets, some are actually manuals and directories. For instance, creating a senior environment core is a manual that we can actually send to somebody, and it says how to start a senior environment core in your own community. And we've had seniors that have just said, I want to do this. Put us on your newsletter list. We send out a newsletter for free to anybody that wants it quarterly, and that's the Easy Does It. We call it a newsletter, but it's about 36 pages long, so I'm not sure where you make the cutover from newsletter to journal. We also have a sustainable journal that we do. That's an actual academic journal that we produce twice a year in cooperation with the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. And those materials are available free of charge to anybody that wants to either sign up through the homepage, the web page, or can just call in and say, please put me on your mailing list. There is no charge to be added to the mailing list.
All right, so the information that you have is a journal called Easy Does It, one on sustainable communities, a pamphlet, A Good Home is a Healthy Home, Global Climate Change, Protecting Your Health, a manual, Creating a Senior Environmental Core, and Introduction to Fundraising. So they're all available through you at the Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement, and that's you may call Tom at 1-888-423-7855. That's 1-888-423-7855, or you can contact him at his webpage or email, which is again what, Tom?
The webpage is easi.org, and the email for me is just tom@easi.org.
All right, and we have been speaking to you today about issues relating to senior citizens with Thomas Benjamin, who has been recognized for his work with senior citizens, the environment, and getting them involved in potential renewal of America. He received a National Award for Sustainability in the community from Renew America and the President's Council on Sustainability. And he was just named the United Nations Environmental Program Global 500 Laureate, which is equivalent, he tells us, to the Nobel Prize. And we'd like to congratulate him again. In these last few minutes of our broadcast, Tom, can you give us some direction or some information or something we haven't conveyed to our general public in terms of utilizing our elder population for our children, for our communities, and for society?
I think one is we have to get away from the perception of the frail elderly. We need, as a society, to start appreciating and utilizing probably the greatest natural resource that we have, and that's the additional years of life that we have after retirement. When the retirement age was set up at 65, most people had a life expectancy of 68. Today, that life expectancy is 78, 79, and increasing every day, so that people will live longer, healthier, and more active, creative lives. And we need to know and work together to tap that resource and making it a meaningful after-retirement existence for all of our seniors.
All right, and Tom told us earlier that only 15% of our population are the fragile and sick, and much more of our population as well. When we think of seniors, we think of senior nursing homes rather than thinking them as healthy. And there are many of them. The state of Pennsylvania is the second oldest state in the United States, meaning that there are a tremendous amount of senior citizens here who are capable, who are healthy, and are available to work in our schools, to work with our children, to do after-school programs, and many other functions in the classroom and in the schools that we haven't prior to this time thought about, and keep thinking we need more funding and more money to have more hands, when we have this tremendous reserve on our hands for our classrooms that we really need to tap into. And Tom has, across the state of Pennsylvania, organized senior environmental corps which are a group of volunteers who work specifically in the environment, but who also go into schools to teach children on environmental issues. And as we were talking about earlier, rather than it just becoming a course, we really need to have it become a lifestyle, the environment, because the state of Pennsylvania is really in dramatic need of those of us who live here to create environmental changes and live in sustainability, much more so than we have in the past. We have problems with our drinking water, with our air, and our ground, and we really need to utilize two of our resources, our senior citizens and our children, to help in this effort to clean up our state of Pennsylvania and do something much, much more. And Tom, we really appreciate your having you with us today and helping us to understand more about our senior volunteers and those people out there who might be available for our schools. Tom's number again is 1-888-423-7855. Again, his number is 1-888-423-7855. His email and website are again, Tom?
Easy, EASI.org, and Tom at easy.org.
Now, we were listening to you talk earlier about Native Americans and the Native American culture and the use of elders in the community. We seem to have moved so far away from what has happened to us that we have moved so far away from utilizing our senior citizens in the community. What has happened to us that we don't see even our own parents as resources for our children?
I think that one of the big things that's happened is that we are much more of a mobile society than we've ever been before. We also are a society of convenience. It takes an effort to keep that contact with your parents and your grandparents. It takes an effort to work into a very busy lifestyle. That even that phone call to mom and dad, to see how they're doing, that once a week or once a month, or in some cases, unfortunately, once a year or never, it seems. But what we have lost by doing that is that sense of heritage and the sense of tradition, and we need to get that back if we're going to bring stability to our society.
How is heritage and tradition important for people who are listening, who go to McDonald's and we're the quick fix, fast moving pace society? Most people would disagree that tradition and heritage is important.
I think it gives a sense of place, and it gives a meaning and a certain peace of mind that a lot of people have lost. A lot of people have put the job or earning on top of the list. And one thing that an older individual knows, and it's something that they really need to share with younger people, is that making money is very important, but it doesn't replace the need for a personal feeling of worth and a personal feeling of wealth. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't feel good about yourself and feel good about the people around you, you can be a very sad individual.
I think that's very true, and it also brings about, I think, from my own experience in having been in an ethnic family, which there are many of in the state of Pennsylvania, and especially in this area, ethnic families tend to, those that have held on to their culture and their ethnicity, have had this continuity that exists where children know their place, they know what to do in life, they have a certain direction in life. And I think what we've done in America is that what we've attempted to do is to make everybody so equal and so much the same that we've lost our diversity and our ability to be comfortable with diversity. And I'm sorry that's happened. We have a lot to learn from ancient cultures like the Native Americans, like the Japanese, like the India culture, and the African American culture, where our heritage and our elders were the most important thing in our lives. And I'm hoping with programs like yours, Tom, that we can move back in Pennsylvania to finding those things. And I thank you today for joining us, and I appreciate everything you've done. You have been listening to Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski on WAAT Radio, 750 AM on the dial. Our guest today has been Tom Benjamin with the Environmental Alliance for Senior Involvement, talking about how the elders in our society can work with the children in our communities. You can hear Children Come First every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. on WAAT Radio. The show is produced by Earth Heart Foundation, a nonprofit organization with offices in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Mexico. You can contact us at 570-639-2931. That's 570-639-2931. Or email us at prokids@rlc.net. That's prokids@rlc.net. Join us again next Tuesday at 10 a.m. on WAAT Radio for Children Come First with Dr. Daria Brzezinski. Have a good day, and thank you. Thank you, Tom.